Hey guys, it's me and Leeland here, and we're gonna be talking about some things that he has been digging up on Jeremiah 52. If you have not watched this latest video yet, you probably should. It's jam-packed and very informative. It's awesome. All right, Leland. So what I wanted to do is give you the floor here for a little while and see if you can't go ahead and maybe even summarize a lot of that for us.
Okay, well, let me answer the question with a question. So, how well are you versed on the counting of the weeks? So, when we were counting the weeks this year, when we arrived at the weeks this year, the 70 weeks.
Okay, I'm pretty well versed on it, and the last interview that we had, we talked about it just a little bit here, and we talked about the fact that there was a 3.5 and then another 3.5.
Right. Good. Okay.
And I think that's where you're kind of leading in with your latest video.
Exactly. So, good. And if the other people, if they don't know, the best thing is to follow up on the blog and follow up the recent videos. Essentially what we're getting at, we're going to say it real quick. We had a counting of the years of Daniel. Those led up to the peace deal. The peace deal is the commandment. From the peace deal, we begin to count Daniel's weeks. Okay, so from the peace deal, we count 62 weeks. We arrive at Passover 2021. That's this year. Okay, so it's the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem. So the commandment and the going forth of the commandment is the Exodus. Exodus is Passover. That's 62 weeks from the peace deal. We arrive at Passover this year, and the 7 weeks. Daniel talks about the 7 weeks, and those are literal weeks when you count the Omer. Omer's 50 days, where we say Pentecost. In Greek, it's a Greek word. Penta means 50. Cost is feast. Okay, so that's the Feast of Weeks, and that is 7 weeks after Passover. Then it says there's a rest week, so the Feast of Passover, it is a week-long feast. Okay, so it's 7 days. When that completes, then it's confirm the covenant. So confirm the covenant is when Yahweh came down on Mount Sinai. He was down on the mountain 7 days. Okay, so you confirm the covenant 1 week. So we got 1 more week. Now what we're ending up with is we're getting towards the end of the 3rd month. So at the end of that, then we found out in Daniel chapter 10, verse 2 and 3, Daniel fasted for 3 days, weeks. It says it in Hebrew. So that's 3 days, 3 weeks. Okay, then it says it in verse 2. He was in mourning, he fasted 3 days, weeks. So 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7. So then what we did is then we counted from that time. This precise date is actually in the book of Esther, the 23rd day of the 3rd month. It's precisely the same day Moses began to go up to Mount Sinai. So Yahweh came down 7 days. Moses goes up that day. Esther records that day, Esther chapter 8, of the 23rd day of the 3rd month. And the scribes were assembled. Okay? All right, so from that date, we count another 7 weeks. We essentially come to the 9th of Av. Okay? So this is a sequence of weeks, all right, that's leading to something extraordinary. Now, this is what the prophecy says of what is transpiring in heaven. So the things that it's talking about there in Daniel chapter 9 is the cleansing of the heavenly sanctuary. Yeshua being anointed king, priest, okay? Him sitting on the throne, his glory filling the heavenly sanctuary. So they're all heavenly prophecies related to him as the Messiah. So we would memorialize him in this new role. I mean, he's been seated at the right hand of the Father for 2,000 years, but now he comes in the glory of the Father. He enters the temple. Now the heavenly sanctuary dictates what happens on the earth. Okay, so that's what's transpiring. Now, I think we have mentioned it last time. we were looking at Daniel chapter 10, and we touched on it, and it says it was the 3rd year of Cyrus, right? And when Daniel sees Alpha and Omega, Aleph Tav, okay, he's in his white garments. Okay, he's in the priestly garments. He's girded with gold. Essentially what he looks like the priest in Revelation 1. So Daniel doesn't describe a crown. He doesn't describe the robe in red. Okay, he doesn't say that. That's what we see. He's crowned with many crowns. He's on a white horse, and then he has clothed with a vesture dipped in blood at Revelation 19. So something has to happen between the 3rd year of Cyrus and the Armageddon.
Right.
So he has to get the white horse, he has to get the red robe, and he has to be crowned with many crowns. And what we're suggesting is that's the period of these weeks. These weeks are talking about what's happening in the heavenly sanctuary. Okay? So if we understand that, if we come to terms with that, that the heavenly sanctuary is dictating, all right, because we can see that. You can see that, for example, in Revelation 14, it says there was one like the Son of Man on a cloud, okay, and an angel came out of the temple and said, reap, for the harvest is ripe. And then another angel came out of the temple, okay, with a sickle, and then he reaped the grape harvest. So the angels are coming out of the temple. So what this means is that the temple in heaven has been dedicated, all right? So once the temple is dedicated, no man can enter the temple, but the angels are administrating from the temple. All right, so what you begin to see with the time period of the bowls, Jason, is the altar and the temple in heaven is offerings, and those offerings are what's bringing the judgments. Okay, those are offerings like the grain offering is the bowls, and they pour out the bowls, etc. So, but that temple, okay, was alluded to in Revelation, but it was dedicated. And so when it's dedicated, it's anointed. It goes through the process of cleansing. Daniel says, cleanse the temple after 2,300 days. Okay, so that's why in advanced studies, in the post that I did, I talked about just this week. Talked about Palmoni, 2,300 days unto the righteous sanctuary, or to cleanse the sanctuary. Okay, and so when we look at that prophecy, what we're doing is multifaceted, because it's all about Christ. It's the revealing of Christ, and when he's revealed, when he's anointed as king, he's anointed as priest, he's anointed as the temple. Because he is all those things. He's king, priest, temple. So just as you put the oil on the temple, just as you put the oil on the king, you put the oil on the priest, okay, all of that is him. You anoint the most holy, the Kodesh Kodashim. Okay, so he is the Kodesh Kodashim. He is the Holy of Holies. He is the temple. He is the king. He is the priest. In Zechariah 6, that he will be king and priest. He will rule. Okay, so that happened in the heavenly sanctuary in this time. Okay, and a very advanced study in order for me to prove that out, but in a call like this, I'm just going to explain it like that. Okay, so that's what led us to believe that, okay, something to this effect will happen on our abomination that makes desolate, or to give the sanctuary, or the transgression of desolation to give the sanctuary. Because the Jews would reflect something through the beast temple on the earth, what has happened, and counterfeit and mimic what's happened in the heavenly sanctuary. Okay, so that's where, okay, look, if we looked at this 6 years ago, we said, well, all right, well, the third temple is going to be there, and there's going to be a statue of it. That's the abomination of desolation. But sometimes it can, there's other details of the prophecy that may be emphasized that we don't think about. Okay.
Yeah, agreed. So that was a really good summary of basically your entire last video. Yeah, basically that was all of it. Excuse my dog. He's
Oh,
he keeps
I
hopping
can't
up.
tell.
and
I
getting
can't even
in
see
that
him.
video. I gave him a bone. He's chilling.
So, okay, one other thing I didn't finish.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
So once we had come to the 9th of Av, okay, we had counted since Passover. We had counted 7 weeks. Okay, then we had counted another week, and then we counted another week, and then from that we counted another 7 weeks. So there we had 7 plus 1 plus 1 plus 7 is 16. So we had counted 16 weeks from Passover. We come to the 9th of Av. Well, if we count 16 weeks from the 9th of Av, we come to the Abomination of Desolation. Perfect. So it's like the reversal of the 7-1-1-7, and we count those weeks. That's why we can say, okay, what's happening in the heavenly sanctuary? Okay, then the earthly in the Jews will do something mimicking that, and that we've seen that also with the Cyrus decree and many other prophecies that this dynamic is running. The Illuminati calls it like as is above, so is below. So it's basically the things that Yahweh did in terms of the temple and the sacrifices and things like that. They do the same thing. So it makes you think, oh, well, this is like the Jews will say, well, this is in the Bible, so what we're doing is good. Well, the devil quoted the Bible to Jesus, so it doesn't mean it's good. It's like, who are you worshiping? What is this for? What are we doing? So this is just the beginning of it, Jason. You'll find this series fascinating. But unfortunately, it's so much work to study this and explain what happened. It's so profound that I don't have time right now. It's going to have to come later where I'm going to explain it. But I'll give you a sneak peek. So, in the beginning of the video, I didn't have time, but notice how I showed the chamber of hewn stone, right? Okay. Now we know the chamber of hewn stone, Ezekiel 8. We know that that's the Sanhedrin. It says 70 of the elders, the children of Israel. Now they are all in there with their incense, their censers. It says. And this is a censer. Now what's in the censer? It's the oils. It's the incense. So just like they're doing the oils and the incense today to anoint the Messiah, it says that's a major part of the abominations.
Right.
Because Yahweh says to Ezekiel, son of man, look, I will show you their abominations. I will show you greater abominations than this. Right? So when those 70 are in that chamber, okay, and they have their censer, what are they doing? They're doing the incense. So what happened is very significant. It's very important. It's very big. It's huge. This is the transgression of desolation to give the sanctuary. Now, further, what he did is he also basically declared the third temple. He said it's complete. He said, okay, this is the Noahide laws. Okay, you got to make a choice. You got to decide what side you're on. So this was, Jason, this was it. This was our giving of the sanctuary. Okay, this was the cleansing of the temple. That's what the oil was. Okay, and the people don't know what this is because we have to study the prophecy. Okay, we have to focus on Christ because it's His revealing, and then we do. They're like, why are they doing a similar thing? It's this dynamic.
I have a question for you here in regards to all this. So Zedekiah, he was the one that dissolved the monarchy, correct?
Yeah. He was appointed by Nebuchadnezzar, yes.
Right. And he dissolved the monarchy, apparently. And that brought upon the siege of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar. That made that basically all happen.
Yeah, like there was 3 sieges. So the first one was Joachim, and so he was there for that one. And I think then he sieged it a second time. In the second siege, he changed it for Yehoiakim into Zedekiah. He changed his name. It was like Mathaniah or something like that. He changed his name to Zedekiah. So yeah, he was appointed by the king of Babylon, and then he turned against the king of Babylon. So yeah.
Okay, and that is remembered or commemorated by the 9th of Av. I've had a lot of questions about what's the significance of the 9th of Av. Well, it's significant because there's been a lot of terrible things that have happened in the past on that day.
Right. And that's why I'm still doing the series on covering that. Okay, so when we say 9th of Av, well, what does this mean? What does this mean in Revelation? Well, in Revelation, it means Babylon has fallen, because Judah was a type of Babylon. Unfortunately, we would have liked to said they were righteous and they repented and they had good kings, but they didn't, and so they were slated for this judgment, even though they started, and that's America. It started, Christian. It started with believers. It started as a New Jerusalem.
Right.
Okay, but both Judah and America, USA, start in God and finish in Babylon. So when the 9th of Av comes in the prophecy, it relates to the governments of the world giving up the throwing over the seats and the thrones and giving it over to the beast. So that's what happened in Afghanistan on the 9th of Av. So when they did that, it was a type of shadow of what's happened globally. So now we can see this in Australia. The governments are given over fully to the beast and the system and everything else. So that's just going to keep happening and happening. But we have to have like a point, a demarcation point, a line in the sand, like, okay, here it is. And then it's only going to get worse. And this is what we're seeing. So now you can see the food supply being shut off, the forcing of the mandates, the children. I mean, things are just going to get worse and worse until it reaches the point, no buying and selling, and that's it, And then not only that, it's, okay, you don't agree? Well, we saw you contacted someone else to have the virus, you have the virus, you got to come into camp, and you might end up in this incinerator, unfortunately. But you can stay if you will denounce Christ. So,
right.
So that's why sometimes when I do this, Jason, I do this stuff with the Sanhedrin that people think, oh, those are just, a bunch of, nobody rabbis in Jerusalem. These people are very, very powerful. The influence of what they have in the U.S. government. I mean, look, they chose Trump. I mean, they told him, look, you want to do this? He said, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, well, you got to do this for us. So
he said he was the chosen one, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
And so, we don't want to ever just, dismiss this, or, I mean, we should have respect for our enemies, because the things, when they make threats, we don't want to scoff. What's the big deal? No. This is real. This is legit. We have to be prepared. Okay. Well, if that's it, then I'm ready for the guillotine. Okay. I'm ready for the things that the prophecy says.
And because of that very last point that you just made, you said, I'm ready for the guillotine. I'm ready for what the prophecy says. Because of that, I recently made a few videos that talked about death. And I did it for a reason, because a lot of people think that, death is supposed to be bloody and gory and horrible, and they don't want to die. And that is the point. We are appointed to die before we can be judged. And I thought that was an important point that you just made in regards to really taking into account what your enemy has laid out. What they say is important. You got to give it respect, like you said. So with that point, what I wanted to do is get you to tie in the wings here in with all of this. So people can understand that. They seem confused when they're asking me questions. A lot of the most asked question that I got on my community post asking for questions for you was in regards to how does the wings tie in to all this? Summarize that for us.
Yes, we'll do. Okay. Before I answer that though, if we're concluding what we talked about with the abomination that makes desolate, and we're concluding Daniel's timeline, I just want to say this to many of the people, yourself included, that have only kind of followed the channel recently in the last year, 2, 3. Keep in mind, Jason, this is the 4th fulfillment, okay, to the day, 4 fulfillments that have happened. So for all the people that, I don't know what they're saying to you, but like, okay, you know, the prophecy is at hand. You can't say in advance, okay, this is going to happen, and it happens 4 times. It happened. I mean, what do we have to do? Okay. Now, some of it can be a bit of a, like, it can be like a release or something, and then it begins to fulfill afterwards. Okay. But the point is, this is not in 10 years. This is not in 5 years. This is what we're trying to say is the prophecy is at hand. Right. Well, so all you people that say whatever you say to me, you say whatever you say to Jason, what are you going to do with that? At some point, when you argue against 4 fulfillments of prophecy, now you're arguing against the apocalypse itself. You're arguing against the book, okay? Because the book is happening, okay? And the servants went early, okay? So we didn't say this after the fact. Hey, I just came up with this week. Hey guys, something's going to happen on November 10th. Right. No, I said it 6 years ago, okay? And so this proves to us, this is our solidifying, okay, that, yeah, the woman clothed with the sun was the beginning of the 7 years, okay? So I just want to say that. Now let's segue into the wings, because now the reason I'm working on this, people, okay, so, just be patient. I have to explain all these other details you're not interested in order for you to understand, what the 1,335 days to, what does that mean? Okay. We have to go through all these other details of what the prophecy said and how it was fulfilled, because it's not perfect. Okay. All these events historically happened a certain way. They reproduce, they happen again, but differently, not exact, So, but they do happen. They do come into fulfillment. So let's talk about the woman given 2 wings of an eagle. Now, in order to come to terms with this happened on the 9th of Av, okay? So on the 9th of Av, in the sequence of weeks that we just talked about, we talked about Passover, 7 weeks of Pentecost, which is a week. Another week is Mount Sinai. Y'all came down Mount Sinai 7 days. And then after that 7 days, we count another 7 weeks, come to 9th of Av. We come to the 9th of Av, and the woman is given 2 wings of a great eagle. Now, you can go back last year. I talked about this. Could it have been the resurrection? Could have been. Okay, but she goes into the wilderness. All right. So there's a dual thing going on. So she's given the 2 wings of an eagle that she would fly into her place. Okay, into her place is the temple, is the tabernacle, because it had mentioned that in verse 6, where she had a place prepared to God where she was fed 1,260 days. Then she's given 2 wings of an eagle to fly into her place where she is nourished for a time and a half time. Okay, and so when she goes in her place, it's not the resurrection, right? It's not. Now, we didn't know. Just like when the children of Israel, when Moses came with the children of Israel after the 40 years, they came to the border. They were at Kadesh Barnea. They're about to enter, coming from the south. But Moses struck the rock. He didn't speak to the rock. Okay. So then they had to wander in the wilderness. They had to go around into Jordan and to go up. Now, in Jordan, if you look at it, it's got two wings of the eagle, the map. So when the children of Israel passed through, okay, they passed through these two eagles' wings. All right. But we didn't know what it could be. You know, we didn't know. You don't know until you're there in the prophecy. Then you see what happens sometimes. Okay. So literally the mountains of Jordan, which is on the other side of the Dead Sea, they form an eagle. You can see an eagle if you want. I'll email this to you, Jason. And you can see an eagle. You can see the two wings, and that's where they had to go up. They did the same road that exists today. It's called the King's Highway. And so, you know, that means it's the wilderness. So it's not, you know, it's not the resurrection. It's not going to heaven. But it is heaven because she goes into her place where she's fed. Okay. Now, another thing is that what happens, and this is going to be difficult for the people to believe and understand, but Revelation 14, yep, there's Jordan, yep. Are you showing the eagle?
Yeah, you said the Jordan was like two wings of an eagle.
I can't quite see it. I can see the of course land borders, but there's are you showing the eagle's wings?
Trying to.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody can see that.
Yeah, that's them. So that is what happened with the children of Israel. Now, the two wings of an eagle also were earlier than that in the Exodus. So in Revelation 14, what Revelation 14 is when we just talked about these sequence of weeks. Okay. Revelation 14 was during those weeks. It was during Pentecost and Mount Sinai. It has all the same symbolism.
It does.
Okay, so when we look at now there's different prophecies. There's Pentecost, that's Jerusalem. Okay, the Holy Spirit was poured out. Okay, that's on Mount Zion. So Revelation 14:1, the Lamb stood on Mount Zion. So that's Pentecost. All right, but the week following that is Mount Sinai, because it says it's in the third month, in the 15th day, precisely when the children of Israel came out of Egypt. Okay, so they came out the 15th day of the first month, but now we're in the third month in Exodus 19. Okay, so when we begin to analyze and do our analytic studies, and we begin to apply Revelation with Exodus 19. Okay, what happened? All right, they're there. There's an assembly. There's the children of Israel in the camps. Okay, so you got 144,000. Okay, in the camps of the 12 tribes. All right, then they hear a voice from heaven as a great sound of thunder. So when Yahweh was on Mount Sinai, he spoke as a voice of thunder, and he spoke the 10 commandments. He spoke the Torah. Right now, that's the symbolism we're getting of Revelation 14. Then it said they had no guile and they were not defiled by women. Well, before Yahweh came on Mount Sinai, the children of Israel, they had to wash their garments, and they could not come unto their wives for the time period of preparation, of sanctification, before he could come down. So again, we have the type and shadow of washing your garments and not defiled by women before Yahweh comes down on Mount Sinai. The same thing in Revelation 14. Then it says, these are first fruits unto God and unto the Lamb. Okay, so in Pentecost, you offer the loaves, and the loaves are first fruits unto Yahweh. Okay, so what's happened there is we have all the same symbolism in Revelation 14 of what happens, okay, on Mount Sinai. Now, why is that this year? Why is that an assembly this year? How can we prove that? It has to be the resurrection. Well, like the eagle's wings, we didn't know. Approaching it, yeah, we could have looked at it like that, okay? But it could be a heavenly council, all right, that took place, all right? But we didn't know if it was the rapture, the resurrection or not, all right? But then what happens is then we get the angel's messages, okay? The first angel, all right, he says, worship God, for the hour of his judgment to come. Worship him that made the heavens, the earth, the seas, and the fountains of waters. All right. The second angel, Babylon is fallen. Well, Babylon is fallen. Remember how we talked about it? Babylon is fallen is what? The ninth of Av. Okay. And then what we get is the angel, the third angel rehearses the mark of the beast. So the mark of the beast had already been released in Revelation 13, and he recites it again. He says, hey, if you didn't get this the first time, we're going to say it again. Whoever takes the mark of the beast will go into the lake of fire. So the reason it's this year is you would have had to have the mark of the beast already dedicated, already released. Okay, that would have, and then you reinforce that. Okay, and that's reinforced, Jason, after verse 1. So verse 1, I had already...
Listen to that, because this is a question I was going to ask Leeland here in just a few minutes about the mark of the beast. He answered your question right now. Summarize what about the mark of the beast?
Okay, so the mark of the beast, all right, it had to be dedicated already. Now, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. I had just done this. Now, this is the study. This is... Well, we got to work through these details, guys. I know you just want me to blurt off everything off the top of my head all the time, and I do have it memorized, but I just want you to pay attention. You might want to even get a notepad here, because I'm going to blaze through this. Now, in another video, I had talked about the Feast of Revelation. All right, so in the Feast of Revelation, it's the clear and obvious ones. All right, now it gets more difficult to see the feast and the timing and the sequence of events, okay, once we're in Revelation 13 and 14. So when you say the mark of the beast, right, what we're doing is we're talking about Revelation 13. So there's events taking place in Revelation 13. Now I'm going to do a video on this, but I'm going to do this real quick. So we had already talked about earlier, we talked about Revelation 12. We had the woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. So in our comparative analysis, we're going to do real quick, we have the book of Esther. So the book of Revelation mirrors the book of Esther, and the feast and Revelation are in Esther. Okay, so Esther will give us the month in the feast. Okay, so for example, the woman clothed with the sun and the moon in her feet. This is Esther in chapter 2, verse 17. Esther is crowned, and she's given the royal crown on her head. Okay. So that's where Revelation 12 and Esther 1, they match. So Esther is crowned at the 7th year. Okay? You guys know Jason, you know he has talked about that. Then we get to, in a continuation. Okay, this is a continuation. We've got to mention this. Then the Hanukkah. So then Esther is taken unto the king in the 10th month, the month of Tevet, and the king made a great feast unto all his servants of the province, even unto Esther's feast. All right, so the feast here in the 10th month is the first day of the 10th month, and it's the last day of Hanukkah. Okay, so here we got Hanukkah 2017, Esther's feast. All right, we have that clear. So we got that there in Revelation 12. Now let's go, Jason. Let's go to Revelation 13 and 14. All right, we already did 14, but we're going to go into 13. We're going to look at the feast. Okay, so we have lines in the sand. We could see that was 2017. That was the woman clothed with the sun. That happened. You can't change that. All right. Now, once we get to Revelation 13, all right, verse 2 says, the dragon gave him, the beast from the sea, his seat and great authority. Okay. This is Esther chapter 3, verse 1. And after these things, the king did promote Haman and advanced him, and his seat was above all the princes that were with him. So we can clearly see that, okay, Revelation 13 is running parallel with Esther chapter 3. Okay? Now, this event, all right, is the 15th day of the 6th month. When you mentioned it earlier, the chosen one. All right? And then what happened is Revelation 13, verse 5 says, there was given to a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy. His power is given unto him 42 months. Now, this is, pay attention to this, guys. Revelation just told us about 42 months, right? 3.5 years. Okay. In the book of Esther, chapter 3 chapter 3 through to chapter 10 is 1 year. So what happens is the feasts and the timing in the book of Esther, they all happen in the 12th year of the king. But they're applied to the book of Revelation over 3.5 years. Okay? So that's a very important distinction, because we could clearly see here in Revelation verse 5, 42 months. And you could see in Esther 3, it was the 12th year of the king. Okay? So we know now, how can we say that Haman received his power on the 15th day of the 6th month? Well, because we go to Esther at the end, it's the 12th year, the 12th month, and the 15th day of the month. Okay, you just subtract 3.5 years and come to the 6th month, 3.5 years earlier. Okay, so that's the precise day. Now we can prove this because Revelation 13 verse 6 says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those that tabernacle in heaven. Well, that's the Feast of Tabernacles. So you just had the 6th month, okay, where he opens his mouth in blasphemy, and then the 7th month, now you have the Feast of Tabernacles in the next verse, right? And then we keep going, and then it goes to Passover. So verse 8, and all that dwell on the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written on the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundations of the earth. Okay, so now we're at the Lamb slain. This is Passover. Now, this again runs a parallel with Esther chapter 3. And Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that throughout the whole kingdom and the provinces in the 1st month, the month of Nisan, where Passover is. Okay? And then the king's scribes were called in the 13th day of the 1st month. That's the day before Passover. The 13th day of the 1st month, clearly Passover. You say, well, Leela, what happened? Well, Trump gave the executive powers to FEMA in the emergency declaration on March 13, 2020. Okay, so he gave the power to the beast, all right, at that time. Okay, as we were in that time period, entering the beginning of the year of the 1st month, 2020. All right, now, this is how now I had to do all that, Jason, to show you that this is a precise order and sequence. So then we get to verse 16 with the mark of the beast. This is Hanukkah. So now, okay, we had the executive orders, we had the 1st month, all right? Then it's Hanukkah, warp speed, and he causes both small and great, rich and poor, to receive a mark in their hand, the foreheads. No man could buy or sell save he that had the mark, in the name of the beast or the number of his name. And you say, well, Leland, how is that Hanukkah? Well, in Daniel chapter 3, when they made the image of the beast, Nebuchadnezzar first saw the dream. Then he says, okay, play the music and put up the statue. And he called the princes on the Hanukkah of the image. Okay, so that's the image. That's the Hanukkah of the image. You can see that image there in Revelation 13, verses 14, 15, where it's talking about the image. So that's Hanukkah, guys. It's Hanukkah 2020. So that's a sequence. That's what it's talking about there. Okay, about that image. And then we keep going, and this is what I'm saying. I know you might have a different view, guys. It's fine. I'm just telling you when we're looking at Esther and we're doing our comparative analysis, when Esther was crowned, okay, she was crowned in the 7th month, and then what you do is you count 1,335 days, and then you come to Revelation 14. This is in Esther chapter 2, verse 19. And when the virgins were gathered a second time, Mordecai sat in the king's gate. So what happened is Esther went to the king, and that was in the Revelation 12 sign. And then it says the virgins were gathered a second time. Well, that's 1,335 days later, precisely on Pentecost. Okay, and then we had already done our Revelation 14 analysis, okay, which you know, I have a whole study which is about as long as what I just did to explain all that.
Well, thank you. That was much needed. It was very clear. I'm going to throw something at you here that I think will kind of supplement what you're talking about for everybody. In the past, I've talked about the book of the 3 holy children, and you just mentioned the image in chapter 3 of Daniel. Okay. Now, in the chapter 3 of Daniel, verse 23, this entire section was taken out, and it's called the book of the 3 holy children. It's about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, how he told them, bow down to my image, and they wouldn't. And we can relate that image to the mark of the beast, I think. And what did they do? They loved not their lives unto death and said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. Sorry, throw us in there, burn us up. And that, I think, is a good example. I've said this in the past, that everybody can use as to what you can look at as an example for you to love not your lives unto death. They didn't care. Kill us. We're not going to bow down to your image. All right. And I thought that was a good lead into something that's not accepted biblical canon. But, and I've talked about that in the past too. I'm not really a fan of whoever says something is not the accepted biblical canon. Just because it's not, makes no difference to me. It's prophecy. So that kind of concludes, I think, unless you have more to add, kind of concludes, I think, the question that everybody had about the wings relating to Jeremiah 52 and everything here. So, do you have something to add, Leeland?
Yeah, I think just to and again, I'll do a whole study. I just wanted to explain our counting and how we, you know, had arrived at that. But yeah, we had mentioned it in the previous video. You know, if a lot of this is confusing, that's why you get the notes and you go through these beasts and you can see clearly that the sequence of Esther and Revelation, it shows it perfect. And once you get that, it's just like, wow, this is amazing. You see the physical manifestation. You see the comparative analysis between the two books, and they fulfill perfectly, okay? But we also want to think about the prophecy as it relates to the dream and vision and the symbology, okay? So we talked about this before, and this is where everybody, you guys got to really meditate and think about this. But what happens is when the beast and the lion, the beast has a mouth of a lion, and he's a lion with 2 eagle's wings, and his wings of the eagle are plucked. Okay, so those 2 eagle's wings are plucked from the beast, and they are given to the woman. Okay, so you can see the beast has his wings plucked. You see that in Daniel 7, verse 4, and then you see the judgment will sit, and they will take away his dominion and consume and destroy unto the end. Then the next verse says, in the dominion and the kingdom was given to the saints of the Most High. Okay, so those are the eagle's wings. So the eagle's wings were taken from the beast, and they're given to the saints. Okay, and almost nobody has taught us this. Okay, these are just the things that are like, I didn't teach it either, because it's like something that exists in the realm of possibility, but you get to the prophecy and you see. Now, I had explained before that I thought that Trump would have a Nebuchadnezzar experience, or would be humbled in some way.
I remember that.
I didn't know if it would be, as dramatic as it was, and that's the most difficult thing when if anybody says, okay, well, Trump is the Antichrist, and they're like, well, that's ridiculous. All the Christian movies, the Antichrist doesn't lose the election. I mean, that's, so it's uphill battle. But if he does what the book says, that's what he has to do. He doesn't have to fulfill the prophecies of Christian media.
In other words, he does not have to be president to be him.
Yes, that's right.
Right. Okay. He does not have to be president to be the Antichrist.
Yeah, but think about that. That is good news. So what this is saying, Jason, is saying these are prophecies we would have looked at and said, okay, when Christ comes in the clouds, he's going to do this, and then the saints enter the millennium, and then they get this dominion. No, that's what this is saying is this happens during the apocalypse. So that's why like your analogy was good. So when we look at Daniel in the lion's den in chapter 6, and then we look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in chapter 3, this is why, because they interpret the dream and they're running the kingdom. Okay, so the beast is like, we got to kill these guys. They're running the whole kingdom.
Yeah.
You see? And so that's what's happening. And so people will be just common people, and we won't think anything of them. But the beast is like, these people are running the kingdom. We have to kill them. I mean, think about it. How could someone be so upset that they put a law into the kingdom to try to stop and execute someone for praying? That's what happens. Daniel's prayers were so powerful that he was destroying the principalities and the powers by his prayers. So the only thing they could do is try to kill him. They couldn't find him doing anything wrong. They, tried to execute him. He's like, okay, go ahead. If you can kill me, go ahead. That's how I feel. If you can kill me, go ahead.
That's how I feel too. Go ahead.
I think my work here is done. I'll wrap it up. But if you can't, then you can't kill me. I still have to do this.
And that's why I brought up earlier. Like, listen, they want to kill me. Let them. It's whatever. And I'm sure you feel the same way. If they're going to kill you, go for it. Try. Do what you can.
Right. Because the thing we do, guys, is we want to save our life. And, it's true. There's a certain extent that the judgments of Yahweh that come on the earth, we don't want them coming on us. We don't want to have the plagues of Babylon. Okay. But at the same time, we don't want to extend all our effort into surviving and buying food and being, and all that, because now we're worshiping ourselves. We're not worshiping Him. We don't have faith in Him. We're extending all our effort to save our life, which is the opposite of it. Blessed is he that loses life for my name's sake. So
right. Yeah.
It's a balance. And it's difficult. People, well, I have a spouse, I have children, I have old parents. Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, he said, if you have all those things, you take those into account before Christ, you're not worthy, And so essentially it's just like the monkey with the jar, the cookies in the jar in the monkey's hand, and he can't take the cookie out of the jar. Well, he can take his hand out of the jar as soon as he lets go of the cookie, right? So that's our idols. And so the whole apocalypse is judgments on us to get us to let go of the cookie.
That was a great analogy. The monkey, if y'all haven't seen the or read about the story of the monkey, that I think you did had this in one of your videos. He puts his hand into a jar, I think, to grab a piece of fruit, and that's how they did hunting. These guys, they put fruit in a jar. The monkey would not let go of the fruit, and he couldn't take his hand out because his knuckles were too big, and he wouldn't let go of the fruit. And subsequently, he got himself killed. You can relate that piece of fruit to your life. If you won't let go of the things of this world, okay, then it's gonna get you. You're gonna die because of the things and people in this world. Let go of it, and you need to trust in Him. He needs to be
Amen.
the center of your life. I just wanted to throw that in there because I thought it was a great analogy. It's awesome. It's perfect. Fits right in there.
Yeah, I love that too. So that's important, and we all do that. Like you can even see behind me. So once we get to questions, and I have this behind me, you can see I got 2 stones, and so I can bring them closer. So
yep.
So you can see I always have these in the video where I talk about these 2 stones, and so the stones represent our thinking. Okay, so like when we all do this. I'm not just beating everybody up. We all do this. And so we have this thinking that's like, oh, I gotta save. What am I gonna do? You run scenarios in your mind. Oh, all these bad things. How am I gonna survive? How am I gonna take the mark of the beast? Right? We all do it. Let's just say let's just be honest. That's just what we do. But I don't want you, because you think that's the white stone. You think that's good. You think that's like, oh, well, this is certainly reasonable. I'm just, it's good. Da, da, da. So you think it's the tree of life, but it's not. It's a tree of good and evil. Okay. So then we extend all this energy into evil thoughts, into the things that Christ said, take no thought for your life, what you will eat or drink, But what do? Money. And it's going to get difficult. What are we going to do when credit cards are shut off? Yeah, it's going to happen. Well, you don't know. When the children of Israel, they walked through millions of people through the desert, it's not a nice place. There's no water. How do you feed the cattle? How do you do that? You don't know. You just go and say, okay, well, we're going to the promised thing. Yahweh said, go, we go. So that's the white stone, okay? So we have to do this all the time in our minds. Apostle Paul talked about it, casting down those high and lofty thoughts in our mind that exalt themselves against the knowledge of Christ. So that's the type of thing that we're doing. Okay, we're doing, I got to do this, I got to save the world. This Messiah complex, right? So that's the black stone. So you have to remember that, guys. Get a couple stones like this. If you go to a stream or something, get a couple stones and do this. Okay? And I'm putting that here because I know what's going to happen is once we get to questions, it's going to be the black stone. Okay? The black stone is also the beast, because that's how the beast can be successful in controlling and manipulating the people through fear, through those evil thoughts. Oh, what are you going to do? Da, 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 da. Fear, 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 right? And it is scary. Yeah, what do? You don't know, okay? That's how it is. That's a walk. You walk by faith, right? Not by sight. So you can't see. If you see and have everything planned, everything organized, you have all your food and you have your bunker, that's not faith. So when the Son of Man comes on the earth, will he find faith on it? Right?
Right. So what I want you to do when we get to questions is I want you, when I ask you the question, is to hold up which stone that is for people. And that way,
exactly.
that way we don't have to call them out. That way we don't have to call them out verbally. I just want you to put up a stone, whichever one that question would pertain to. That way they know. And they heard me say it here, so black stone or white stone, according to...
And it's okay, because look, we always convince ourselves in our minds, yes, what I'm doing is good, it's reasonable. We think it's the white stone, okay? But, if we're honest with ourselves or someone else calls us out, we're like, okay, yeah, you got me, Leeland. That's. And so that's what all this beast worship is too. And so the other thing we want to do, we want to avoid all the beast worship, okay? Worship the beast, the mark of the beast, the beast, the beast, the beast. Well, it says those that dwell on the earth, they worship the beast. So when we extend all our energy on the beast and not on Christ, okay, that energy, okay, even if you hate the beast and you want to, expose the Illuminati or whatever, all that energy is the black stone, over and over, black stone, beast,
right.
beast.
So in your opinion, I think you'll agree with me, at least in my opinion, politics is beast worship. I mean, I know people that are so into politics, they get upset about a tweet. It's like, Listen, that is beast worship.
Well, we've been conditioned. We went to school. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. What are we doing? We're bowing and we're worshiping a flag every single day.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be easy to break your vow and commitment to worshiping the beast.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you say to some questions?
Sure.
All right. Now, these were the most asked questions. I had hundreds of questions that people wanted to ask. But there's just no way. I do not have that kind of a hard drive to save a video that long. All right, so in some of these you may have answered already. Just brief right through it if you have. What happens to the children that are forced to take the pharmakia by their parents or their school districts?
Okay, yeah, very common, right? All right. Now, let's talk about what everyone is like, what happens to the children. And look, we talked about this last time. Okay, so what happens is this is another false doctrine. Okay, this is a false doctrine. And so what we have is doctrine. And we get doctrine. Doctrine is also the black stone. When you believe a lie, when you believe, okay, well, we believe this doctrine. The doctrine is that all children go to heaven before they reach the age of accountability. Okay, so the judgments of God don't come on children until they're 12. So nothing can happen to children, until the age of accountability. All right, well, what happened? How come Noah's flood was full of animals and not children under the age of 12? How come there was no children with Lot coming out of Sodom and Gomorrah? Okay. How come it says that it caused all, small and great? Small means children. Okay, that's small in age. That's children. That's small and great. That's young and old. Now, we've mentioned this before. I am not God. I'm not sitting on the white throne with the books open to determine the eternity of souls. And that's what the people do. And this is where I'm going to get upset with you people with these are questions, because you want to put us in the place where you want us to be God. You want your teachers to be God and answer for God, okay? Because you won't go to God, okay? You want to say, no, Leeland, you go up into the mountain and deal with God to answer my question. But the children of Israel say, no, we don't want to hear his voice. You go up there, Moses. So that's the thing. You people don't want to go to God. You don't want to deal with him. You don't want to ask him a question, okay? Because he's going to rebuke you because you're wicked and rebellious ways, okay? So I know you want to say to yourself, yes, I'm so worried about the children. No, you're not. You don't want to deal with yourself. Okay, you don't want to deal with the fact that you're in the apocalypse, you're in the tribulation, you're not prepared. You're totally clueless of what's going on. That's the problem. So that's what's going to stem from all these questions, the mark of the beast. Oh, what about the children and the old people and the forced vaccination? It's distraction. So I'm not buying it. I'm not falling for it, people. I'm not falling for it one bit. If you were on my channel, I just delete you. I won't block you. I just delete you till you come up with a good question.
And I think what you just answered to that question probably stepped on a few people's toes that needed their toes stepped on. And I keep saying this right here that I'll add to it. It's every man to his own works. That's how we're judged. Every man his own works. Everyone.
Yeah, one other thing on the children, right? Okay, one other thing on the children, because you got to think about why is God judging people or whatever. Like, you got to realize as the responsibility as a parent. Okay, like let's go to the days of Noah. Let's go to the daughters of women, right? They're like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna have sex with angels and have children. Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, that's what the mark of the beast is. The mark of the beast is going to change the DNA into fallen angels. This is basically the same thing. So yeah, you as a parent, you go to do what you want to do, you want to, screw around, have it, whatever, you're going to produce something that is not redeemable. Okay, so you're, as a parent, you're gonna go ahead and vaccinate your children. It's the same thing in the days of Noah. You just sent them to the lake of fire. So that, I'm just saying, guys, this is what the book says. This is not my opinion. I'm not gonna talk about forced vaccines or whatever. Yeah, it's gonna happen. Okay, but
it was over a year ago. I think it was a while ago. I reposted one of your videos. I ripped it off YouTube and I reposted it on my channel. It's called The Woman's Seed versus the Serpent Seed. If you guys have not seen that video, watch it. Even in the description, I tell you guys how important I think that video is. It explains exactly what Leeland Jones is talking about right now. It is a seed war. It's between the serpent seed and the woman's seed. Okay.
Exactly, and that's what happened. And it said in Daniel 2:42, 43, 44. It says they mingle themselves with the seed of men. Okay, so that means that the statue is partly iron, partly clay. Okay, so we said this. We said, oh yeah, it's partly iron. That's the angelic, and then it's partly clay, which is human, and they mix those. Okay, well, we didn't know that was a year ago, guys. That was well into the summer last year. We didn't know people would be, sticking forks and spoons, being magnetic, right?
Yeah.
But we said that before it came out. Okay, then when it comes out, the iron is sticking to spoons and forks, people. Okay, that's just how vivid and active and true the prophecy is.
It really is. So just to clarify for everybody, the next question, is there any evidence of the wings that you summarized earlier for us in this video from the 9th of Av in today's world? Did you see any evidence of that occurring?
Yes. The always with the sign of this, okay, we watch for things. What was heading into it was South Africa. Okay, so basically when Babylon is fallen, okay, there's certain judgments that happen to, certain nations that are kind of dramatic. So South Africa happened first, the rioting, the destruction. Okay, that was like a week ahead of it. Then once we get into the 9th of Av, what happened is the Taliban start circling and, taking over all the surrounding areas of Afghanistan. And then they begin to close in. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, they take Kabul. Okay. And taking Kabul is a major prophetic sign for us of it's like the beast army. Okay. Remember how we had talked about before how it's like the Taliban is like the purposeful kind of trained militia for the lamb that speaks as a dragon. Okay, yeah. So that's what Taliban is. Okay, and it's a sign of what's happening politically is that the beast has these people in place that they're just going to overthrow all the governments. But that was a sign for us. That was in Persia. In southern Afghanistan, let me just finish. Southern Afghanistan, they speak Farsi, which is they speak Persian. So that's southern Afghanistan is Persia. So this is Daniel chapter 8 for sure. The goat against the Medes and Persians, okay, against the ram.
Okay. If anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, Leeland Jones has done a video where he talked about Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Mujahideen, going all the way back. And that was not too long ago. Over the summer, he made this video that talked about all those things. And I believe it's on your BitChute channel, Leeland J. If you wanted to go watch that, go back to, the middle of the summer or so. And you'll find it on there, folks. sorry about interrupting you there. I thought you were finished. Next question. Is the locust plague the virus itself, or is it the pharmakia?
Well, the locust plague is, it's both. So, like, it's like the deception and the, what is this thing? It's multifaceted. It's very hard to come to grips on the symbolism. Like if a sinner reads the book of Revelation, like an atheist, right? And let's say they read the book of Revelation, the thing they're going to talk about is the locust. This is ridiculous. What are they talking about? Because what is happening? Well, it is a simulated virus, okay? And at times there was a virus. There was, things that were released to create fear. Okay, they're mostly to create the fear, to then provide the solution. So yes, it's both. It's there is something, okay, that was released. You can say, there's no virus, there's no flu now, it's just the flu. It's no, there is something. You ask someone that had it, they'll tell you they got something, right? It's not that it doesn't exist, but it exists in a way to generate fear, okay? Because then what you have to do is then they come up with the solution, right? So what happened is the serpent went to the woman and said, look at this tree. It's good. The woman saw the fruit of the tree was good. Okay, so then they come up with a solution, okay? Come up with the pharmakia, and it's like, this was good. Right? No, it's not good. It's the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is not good. It's like, I don't know if you saw the video I posted about, it's just a little patch on your arm, I
did. I watched that yesterday. I watched that yesterday. You got your point across with that video. You really did. Exactly. That
movie, you guys, if you want to watch it, it's super weird. I don't necessarily recommend it.
It was weird, yeah.
I'd have to work through a whole layer of explanation, but basically what it is, it's like a Freemason, Illuminati Christian movie. We had talked about them before, and how they infiltrate, and so they give this like fake gospel and everything, and they basically tell you what they're gonna do. So it is interesting.
It is
one of the. Yeah, did you see it?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you did see it, I'll tell you a couple things. So what it did is it quite vividly portrayed what would happen in the last days was the scientific movements. Okay, so the scientific movements of things like people that are talking about, solar flares, the grand solar minimum, and so basically they're kind of scientifically explaining the book of Revelation. So the woman, her uncle, was doing that. He was kind of scientifically explaining how the earthquakes and the things in the Bible would happen. Okay, so the uncle was kind of like those people, okay? And so it wasn't like the book of Revelation says, no, it's like the angel does this or, things like that. But it was a way of kind of like, through knowledge, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, okay, explaining, what God's judgments are. Okay, so they can be his judgments, they can be other planetary systems, but he didn't talk about other planetary systems. He said they were Jupiter. So it would almost make it seem like, this is normal, nothing to see here, But so then you had the patriots. Then what happened is you got the patriot movements. Okay, so the patriot movements are the ones, we want our freedom and the Constitution and all that, and we're gonna have our guns and we're gonna be preppers, okay? But then they take them to the guy. They seemed like, these guys are good, they're gonna help us. But then the woman is the one that was, helping the guy, Cobra woman, and she's the one that shoots the reporter.
What was the name of this movie?
That was the same woman.
Right. What was the name of the movie you said?
Early Warning. Early Warning. Early warning. It was in
Long time
1981.
ago.
So yeah, it was a long time ago. We didn't know things like, solar flares and causing earthquakes, and we didn't know that in 81. And then the things that he said in that, even in the short clip, they're so right now. The food shortages, we're going to starve them. And these are not Christians. These are people that are in the know that wrote that movie.
They're pretending.
Yeah. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, prophecy, blah, blah, blah. And they even do a prayer, and they, have Christian-like things. But no, it's basically the beast warning us, saying, look, this is what I'm going to come at you with, all right? And the guy that was exposing them in the beginning, when he was in the duck and he had the tape, okay, they look at the fear that was on his face. They shot him, and then right before they shot him in the end, the fear on the sweat, he was just like, oh. So they want you like afraid of them for exposing or saying anything. We're gonna kill you. Okay, go ahead.
True. All right. So the locust plague and the virus itself, or is it the pharmakia? You mentioned that there was a release, and actually you did a video on this back in early 2020 when CV-19 first was, hitting the rest of the world from Wuhan. You talked about some of the ways that it could be released in a video. I don't remember what it was titled, but it was about the VMAT2 gene. And you went through this PDF all the way through it, and then you got to a page that said that they considered doing high altitude atmospheric dispersions, dispersing it through vehicles, through putting it in certain spots in a city, which they actually are now testing something similar to that in New York, putting gas all over the place to see how it would affect people and things. So, and you talked about this back in early 2020, and they were testing how, in your video, you explained how they were testing how they could disperse a VSV virus of some kind.
Yes, that's right.
Avenues, and how they would collect evidence that it was dispersing properly.
Exactly. They tried to see its effectiveness in all those different ways in the Middle East, and they would, try different things. Yeah, they said that the aerosol was very effective. And Jason, do you know that in Steve Quayle's interview, he said that he was targeted, okay? And he said that he thought he was targeted specifically based on his DNA and based on them doing it by aerosol. He said that. Wow. So it's not always like a general population or things like that. He believed he was targeted, identified specifically, so that when he was targeted, it affected his wife first and then him. And he said that he believed that the prayers of everybody helped him because Russ Dizdar, he was targeted and he was dead in less than 24 hours. He never made it to the hospital. So these are the things that, like in the movie and everything of what they're saying, and even in my video today, people say, oh, it's not really happening. Well, it is. These are other things that we covered as well when we talked about when the system is in place, how they're going to remove dissidents. And so this is the virus is an overall cover to condition the people, like, oh, the virus. And then people can just, start dying and dropping off that are targeted individuals. These are the ones that they want to go after. And then there's just like, well, they just got the virus. So yeah, this is what's happening. Rob Skiba, Russ Dizdar, people are being targeted. I mean, this is real, guys. This is no joke. Lots of other people from YouTube, just all of a sudden aren't posting to YouTube anymore. So this is real. It's no joke. Whatever. What are we gonna do? We overcome by the blood of the Lamb. There's all kinds of things I have to do just to be able to post a video. You know, these people are live on my devices, screwing around, deleting stuff, hacking, jamming. You know, not just like, oh, it's just like, no, there's somebody there that's like prohibiting me from accessing, you know, photos or screwing up the audio.
I ran into an instance over the last 5 videos that I've posted. They're scrambling everything that I'm saying. But I go back and I listen to the original video before I upload it.
You have to.
And it's fine. And I go to YouTube and listen to that section of the video, and I'm all scrambled, talking over myself. It's like double talking. It doesn't make sense. They're messing with me too. And I know they've messed with you in the past. And I actually noticed that video that you posted that was weird, they blocked it. Did you know that?
Oh yeah. They blocked that straight away. So within like minutes, I think.
Really?
5 to 10 minutes. And both of the videos that I posted were on YouTube. So people posted them on YouTube on other channels. I post them and they're just gone.
Yeah.
And it has
nothing
to do
what
with
you talk about. It's because of the things that you're relating everything to. They are targeting your channel and a lot of other people's channels out there.
Yeah, that video was so hard to do, Jason. I could not post it to YouTube. I couldn't get on Odyssey. When I posted that to BitChute held the video in processing, I don't know, for like 8 hours. I didn't know the video posted. I gave up. I was like, forget it. I just, you know. And then I got a message, like a comment the next day. Oh, I see you posted it to BitChute. It was like the next day.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they let it go.
Yeah.
So
that's how I actually got to watch it, was on your BitChute channel. And then I saw in my notifications that you had posted a video to your Leeland Jones 4 channel. And I click on it and it says that this video has been removed due to violation of this and that. I'm like, give me a break. Same video.
Exactly.
Same video.
That's it. I didn't even, copyright, blah, blah, blah. But also actually the other problem I had was even on the blog, they did weird things on the blog where I upload to Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News. I was uploading to blog and there were other weird things. I couldn't get the video to do that either. So I was just like, well, it's just, the video is just not meant to be. Forget it. I'm just go on to something else.
Yeah.
But I was glad to get it to people because I thought it was good. You know, I thought I could get it on YouTube because I saw the video on other people's YouTube and it stayed up. They didn't get it removed. So I was like, all right, well, whatever.
I have found, and there's a reason why I do have some audio music in the background of every video that I post. It prevents YouTube from taking my videos down because of something I talk about or because of something that I show. Only because the audio that's in there in the background is licensed and I've paid for it. And they can't take it down. And what it does is it changes the audio that I'm talking about coming out of my mouth. And if I put that audio with a picture behind it, it's now art. They cannot take it down because of what I talk about. So a lot of people have been saying, just take the audio off in the background so I can hear you better. Well, you can hear me just fine. Deal with it.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Next question. And that's why I also did that in the last interview that we had. I did have the overlay of audio in the background to make sure anything we talked about is basically licensed to me and you. And they can't take it down. It's art. Okay, next question. Does Revelation 5 verse 2 suggest that people repented for first complying with the pharmakeia, mark of the beast, and possibly being able to repent for it and then changing their mind and following Christ?
I don't understand that. What say that again? What's the verse? 5:2.
15 verse
5:2 is
2. I don't know it off the top of my head, but
5:2 is the book in the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. Revelation 5:2 or 15:2?
15:2.
15:2. Okay, 15:2. All right. Revelation 15:2 is the overcomers. And what was the question again? Those that had taken them?
They asked, does Revelation 15 verse 2 suggest that people repented for first complying with the Pharmacia mark of the beast or mandates?
No.
Basically, they want to know if those people repented for complying with the mark of the beast, and now
nobody is complying and repenting in the book of Revelation of the mark of the beast. Never.
Okay.
We had talked about this, like Revelation 9:20. They repented not of their works, of their pharmakia, okay, that they should worship idols. They repented not of their works in Revelation 16. Okay, they gnawed their teeth. See, this is the same thing. Okay, this is this black stone, guys. This is what I'm saying about you people. Okay, you want to weasel and come up with every excuse how you can take the mark of the beast and you can repent and you can change. And then you want to put us in the position of God. Well, what about this? What about that? No, man. This is the mark of the beast, people. Okay, you can make up all your scenarios all you want. It's just going to get harder and harder. You're going to have to keep checking every box for every booster and everything. And at the end, that's what I sent in the other video, is just a little patch. So now once you agree to everything else, you're going to do that. Okay?
Yep. This next question is completely off topic, but I had more than one person ask. So they asked, Leeland, why do you not wear tzitzits? The little rope bracelet things. I answered back, probably because he may not be Jewish, but I figured I would ask.
You know, that's a good question. I do sometimes, like I have a prayer shawl and it has it on them, but clothes are like tribal. So like you can't if you wear something in clothes that is associated with some other people in a people group, you're going to be associated with them. Now, if you said, well, Leeland, why don't you wear tzitzits on your garments? And I would do that. But what I would do is it would look like Native Americans, because that's what they were doing. They were Jews, and the fringes on their garments on the four corners are the arms and the legs. So if I put on tzitzits and I have arms and legs and I look like an American Indian, you're going to say, oh, he's an American Indian. when I'm displaying something that's Jewish. So you have to keep in mind too, people, the things that the modern Jews are doing, they're not doing anything right. So even though they say that's the corner of the garments and they have those things, that's not biblically what's going on. What's going on actually is the Native Americans kept the tradition, and that's actually what it looks like. So if you want to actually keep the commandments, that's what you have to do. It's fringes on the four corners.
I think they'll appreciate your answer there. Okay, this next question is actually kind of interesting. I haven't done much study on this myself. Question is, could the Abrahamic house near Mount Sinai be the temple made with hands?
Okay, so a little bit of geology discrepancies here. So the Abrahamic house is in UAE, and that's in the Persian Gulf. Now the Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia. Now what's happening in Mount Sinai? There's a city called Neom. So that's not the Abrahamic house, but they are trying to build a, like AI village there. I don't think it's going to succeed, because basically what happened is, Mohammed bin Salman, basically when he assassinated the guy in Turkey, the rest of the world kind of they frowned upon him, and his whole team of foreigners that was doing NEOM, they pretty much just bailed on him. So the Saudis, in their own ability, don't have the means of doing this type of international city. They need foreigners, Westerners to come in and lead it. So once they all left, I think that's the last I heard. The whole thing was, coming to an end.
So you said the city's name was what again? Neom?
Neom. Neom.
Neom. Dubai.
Now there might be something. There might be some other things to that, to where it's not. I mean, the terminology. I know what the person is saying. The terminology is you have the family house, the Abrahamic house. That's in the UAE. Now, what they're talking about is something that could happen, yes, and that is that if Saudi Arabia joins the Abraham Accords, then there would be that's UAE. That's UAE people he's showing.
And that red flag.
That's what the Abraham Accords are.
NEOM.
Yeah, the NEOM is on the whole other side of the Saudi Arabia peninsula. But basically, something could happen where there is a arrangement with Israel and Jordan, and they do have some connections there. There could be something there. The problems with NEOM are pretty great, but basically there could be some other things that happen that build tourism in that area of Saudi Arabia, connections with Egypt. So there could be some developments that, yes, are part of the peace deal. Those are wow. I don't know how those are going to get off the ground, and I don't know how much we're going to know about that, though.
Okay. So that was actually kind of an interesting question, I think. What is the next major prophecy that you are watching to be fulfilled?
Well, it was today.
Other than the Abomination of Desolation.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. What is the next one? You know what? This is there isn't one, honestly. Basically what happens is I'm not looking ahead. You can see all these videos, they're very detailed. Jeremiah 52. I'm going over all this to just explain the eagle's wings, the 9th of Av. What happened? What happened? I'm not even finished. I'm almost finished. The same thing is going to happen with the transgression of desolation to give the sanctuary. I'm going to have so much content on what just happened. It's not like, guys, okay, it just happened, we're on to the next thing. No, this is the prophecy that have been awaiting thousands of years.
Thousands.
And so what happens is when something happens that's big, it's big. And we're conditioned in this new cycle of just, okay, now we're on to the next thing and blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, this has to happen, that has to happen. Yeah, we could watch for, some things happening. And it should accelerate, yes. Things should accelerate. They should get worse. There should be wars. There should be tsunamis. There should be asteroids. But, those are general things. So it's hard for me to say precisely, okay, this is going to happen and this date. The last one I got is really the host Trodden, 2024. So
you had a few other things in there. I think you had done a great study on drilling down about the harvest, and then we can also look forward to, I think, 2023 Purim.
Yes. That's right.
We can look forward to that. There's other things that Leeland has talked about, guys, that obviously he's going to be looking at when we get closer to those time frames. But right now, we're focusing on the abomination that makes desolate and decoding all of that, is what he's saying. So, oh dang, what did I do?
Yeah, just to continue with that, guys, I don't think we realize how compressed prophecy is within certain times. Okay, and the compression and the things that happened this year is so extraordinary. I mean, we have no idea. So we want to really cover that because these were not necessarily clearly understood or clearly anticipated. So some things we could get a piece of information. There could be something else that comes up. Yes. So, being that we found out about Zedekiah, the angel cast the millstone into the sea. Is that the mega tsunami? Is that an asteroid? But it appears that from that prophecy, it happens, in the same year that Zedekiah was taken captive. So that will be in this time period,
Mm-hmm. Okay. This one, I think you kind of already answered this, but it's a different question, kind of, but from multiple people. I think you're going to hold up a particular black stone here as well. The question was, what happens if someone received blood from someone that took the pharmakia?
Oh boy. Well, yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. I mean, look, nursing babies, are getting the pharmakia. You just don't want to do that, guys. Can I sit here and scientifically explain all this, guys? I hope you guys are watching what's going on with the hydras and the graphene oxide. Do you really need me to tell you all that? All this is circulating. You should know all that. I mean, look, it is interesting. The black stone. It's not that it's boring. It's not like it's like, oh, okay, well, this is. I mean, the mark of the beast is extremely interesting. It's extremely entertaining. It's pretty much exceeded the expectations of even what we saw in movies. So sometimes when you look at apocalyptic movies, you see big tsunamis and dramatic things, or sci-fi movies. I mean, this is like worse than the sci-fi movie.
It really
is. These hydras, these things multiplying. I mean, once that's in the blood, it's just, and it's everywhere. I mean, look, guys. The whole situation could be so much more worse than you realize. Like, we didn't say this specifically, but think about it. If you just keep getting tested, you keep putting the thing up your nose over and over, okay? Okay, you don't have the mark on the forehead, but I mean, on the hand, but what if you get it on the forehead? What if you get so many nanoparticles up in you, okay, that you just reach a point where those things, the graphene oxide, just multiplies, and you start coming up on Bluetooth. That's what happens. I mean, if you are coming up, I mean, what? It. You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever tried that. I don't really run into anybody. I've never tried that, but I know a lot of people that have. So. But anyway, wow. This is a problem. Even in testing, guys, the testing could be the mark of the beast if you keep getting tested over and over. Okay, so yeah, look, the mark of the beast is fascinating, and yeah, it's like, how do you navigate? How do you live? I don't know. I mean, I still don't know. I still don't know what I'm gonna do.
So. What you just said is about people getting tested over and over and over again. So that's actually happening. There are people that I work with, they work in a different facility than me, that had to either take or they have to do this every single week. All right.
Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not going to say what those things are because I'm not getting this channel taken down. I'm on strike 2 already.
Really?
What can I do?
For what? For that?
For past videos and within the last 90 days.
Oh, okay.
They gave me a strike on something because I mentioned a certain chemical, which is actually...
Yeah.
these things that people are sticking up their nose. If you read the package, you blow up the package.
Right.
I actually have a picture of it. I'm not going to pull it up right now. If you read
that's why I'm trying to play nice. I'm trying to reference some stuff that hopefully you know what I'm talking about without getting us in trouble. I mean, it's 1984. Remember the movie, and it was like wom wom wom, watching you, big brother. This is like
this
is the reality we live in.
Yeah, it is. My screen keeps going out here. Okay, so that was that. Can you explain one more thing that we can look at that is concrete, that makes the Netanyahu and Zedekiah come together as Netanyahu being Zedekiah of our time? What can people say, and this is why? Apparently, that's what they want to know.
The peace deal.
Peace deal.
Zedekiah, Ezekiel chapter 17, the king of Jerusalem makes the peace deal. And within 2 weeks, he was taken out as prime minister just before the 9th day of the 4th month.
Right.
Concrete.
Okay.
Now we knew he was a Zedekiah type, okay, but we couldn't apply his years precisely until he was taken out as prime minister. Bang, there it is.
There it is. And you've decoded that for everybody in multiple videos now on your BitChute channel.
And not only that, then what happens is you have a modern fulfillment, and then it's curious, like, okay, what happens? He was captured, but he's still trying to destroy this coalition. He's still trying to, he's still trying to not let them pass a budget. He's still trying to, speak against the people. And it's like, nothing is working. Nothing he's trying is working. And they may even have a law where they prohibit him from running again. So it's fascinating. I mean, it's difficult to do prophecy and say, all right, well, this is what it did before, and this is what it's going to do again.
That's interesting. So you just said that there might even be a law that they could try to pass that would prohibit him from running again. I think everybody might be able to relate that to actually my latest video. I talk about it, the curse of Jeconiah. How, everybody throughout that time period, all of his seed would not succeed to the throne. They would not ascend to the throne of the house of David. And they didn't. So that was very interesting that you just said that.
And it was like Congress too trying to do stuff to Trump where he couldn't run for office again because whatever.
That's
it's
right.
Just like they just run parallel, and that's why the Abomination was so fascinating this year. It's like we have no villains. Who's gonna like tell us what? Who's gonna get on the media and say something crazy?
Well, everything they say is crazy to me, but okay, next question. Daniel being your favorite prophet, as you've stated in the past,
definitely.
What is something you would ask him for clarification on now, after doing your ministry for years and all the study that you've done? What's something that's not clear to you still that you would want clarification on from Daniel?
I would ask his future. The last verse says, Daniel, shut up the words of the book, for your lot will come up into the times of the end. I'd ask him what his lot is. What he's going to think about this. This guy was basically running the empire, the greatest empire.
Whole empire. Yep.
You got the king, who's like the monarchy, who's just the political figure, but who is running the day-to-day operations? Not only that, he did that through multiple empires. I mean, Daniel is going to be up there, man. He's going to be up there in the kingdom. So, before it happens, I'd ask him what that is.
I'm actually kind of interested in knowing what that is now too. So that's awesome. Okay, so, and the last question that was one of the most asked questions is, what are the the top reasons why Trump is the Antichrist? Or has that changed to his successor? Which I'm not even going to mention his name because they'll tag me. They'll take it down.
Okay, if you were to ask any prophecy teacher, okay, who does the peace deal? Any prophecy, you could go back 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. Who does the peace deal?
Antichrist.
Exactly. Why is it that we have a peace deal and no one can believe it's the Antichrist? There's a lot of stuff going on, people, to keep you from the prophecy. Okay. There's a lot of false prophets. There's a lot of false teaching. There's a lot of things that want to separate you from the understanding of you are in the tribulation. Now that's what the tribulation says, that people would not understand. Why? Because of the movies, the Left Behind series. I mean, I never seen it, but just about every single Christian went to summer camp, watched Left Behind series.
Exactly.
So you've been set up since a kid to never understand the prophecy. You just thought you'd be raptured. Now you're here, and then you're caught in this dilemma, and you want to just make excuses and say no, it's not, and because you want the Antichrist to look like what you think, because that's what the movies taught you. Exactly. The first thing everyone says, no, he doesn't fit the profile. Well, of what? Left Behind? Tim LaHaye is promoting the Antichrist. The producers of the movies have a political group promoting the Antichrist. Let that sink in. But you can't see the Antichrist. That's because we study the Bible. We look at what it says. Yes, we said Obama had a forerunner role. Okay, he had role. He had things he was doing. Okay, as a forerunner role. It doesn't go to the next guy. It doesn't go to the next guy. I'm just saying we got to look at the prophecy. He doesn't have to do much, guys. He doesn't have to do much. He breaks after this point. He breaks the covenant, and then he goes into the temple. He declares himself God. That's it. He did everything else.
So basically, the next guy would be Trump's successor. He's a nobody.
Yeah, he's not in a sequence of kings. No, yeah. I mean, when you come up with this view and this prophecy, and you see this perfect order, you see this perfect sequence going through since Reagan, it's like, well, wow. What's the next? What's the next? What's the next? We'll see. Around this time of the Abomination of Desolation is also the release of his new social media. Okay, so he's coming back with a new social media, blah blah blah. And
look at that. He won't go away.
I think it's great. I'm glad the Antichrist is on. You know what I mean? I was just so tired of the madness and the comments and tweets. I was like, oh. I mean, it was worse when it was, Leland's false prophet said Trump will be reelected. So I had to deal with all that. Well, did I? The prophecy says, it says Haman, they cast lots for Haman. I believe that. I believe they cast lots for Haman, and I believe he got more votes.
I believe he did too.
But that doesn't mean he's reelected. Maybe he did get the votes and he wasn't reelected. Maybe what his claims are true, but it doesn't matter. The prophecy says, all right, he'll take away his dominion. Now, we'll see what happens. If we have a Nebuchadnezzar parallel, all right, what happened to Nebuchadnezzar? He had 7 times. 7 times passed over him. Now, historically, we go back in time, we can see throughout history, Nebuchadnezzar was not out of power for 7 years.
Nope.
There's no evidence for that. So it says 7 times. Now that could mean a year. It was long enough for his hair to grow, his nails to get long. All right. We think that's 7 years, but maybe it's not.
Walk out of Florida with really long nails.
Right. So I'm just saying, maybe it wasn't that long. I'm not saying he's going to be restored as president. I'm not saying that. I don't know. It says to consume and destroy unto the end. So maybe it's taken the whole time, or maybe it's like Nebuchadnezzar. He comes back and he's restored. And that's just exactly what all these false prophets and, are saying. Oh, he's coming back, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I hope not, because I just don't want to deal with this guy.
I agree with you. All right. So I'm out of questions. I did not choose every single question that I could get. I only took questions that more than one person asked. If they were relatively close, I counted them the same. So what I want to do is focus on the other side here. In the last interview, you mentioned that we need to give everything, its equal attention. Well, we've spent this entire video here talking about things that are, one, prophecy related, the mark of the beast, the black stone. We've spent time talking about that. And what I wanted to do was give you just a couple minutes here to conclude this interview today on a note that helps people focus on him, because that's what it is about. It's about him.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, this is repeat. We mentioned it earlier in the call, but I want to say it again. So the reason we study prophecy is because it's real. So think about it, guys. We talked about it last time in the call. If you're seeing these things in this vivid nature happening, now you could just say, you could be an ignorant person, you never read the Bible, pick up the book of Revelation. Well, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. Okay, fine. But why are we showing you this, all these bullet points, all these prophecies, all these things being fulfilled? That means it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's happening now. That means it's going to happen. Okay, does it all fulfill in one day? No. It's going to happen, and it's going to accelerate. It's going to accelerate. It's going to accelerate. So if it's going to happen, and we mentioned last time in the call, we extend all our energy on the beast. The beast is only around for a couple years, a few more years, and this whole thing is wrapped up. Now, when you're in the millennium, and all the demons are taken out, the devil's cast in the bottomless pit, now what are you going to do? You're going to sit there in the millennium and be like, I don't know what to do. All my focus was on the devil, and now he's gone. What are you going to do? How are you going to rest? You know how to rest. The first angel's message, okay? Worship him that made the heavens, the earth, the seas, and the fountains of waters. That's talking about creation. That's going back to Exodus chapter 20, verse 11, when Yahweh made the heavens, the earth, and the seas, and all that dwelt therein. And then he rested. Okay? So that's what it's talking about there. He's talking about all those that dwell on the earth, okay, worship him. How do you worship him? On the Sabbath. Keep the Sabbath. You rest. Proof of that is that there's a voice from heaven that says, blessed are those that die in the Lord from here thereafter, that they will rest from their labors. Okay, rest from the beast. Rest from the evil thoughts. Okay, that's a big thing, guys. Rest from the madness of the hamster running in your head. Rest. Okay? So you're going to have to learn to rest if you're going to make the millennium. Those in that faith, they entered not because of unbelief. Okay, so faith is the fact that, okay, you have to do something. You have to rest to not work, to not do something. You can't do anything. So you rest from your labors because your own works and labors cannot produce faith. So you rest from your labors. That's faith. Okay. And then yes, so I want to talk about resting, because that's going to be, now what are you going to do? You're going to live 1,000 years and you have no devil. You have no Jezebel wife to complain about anymore. What are you going to do? All your mind is only consumed with evil and wicked things all the time. Now are you going to enter the millennium and you're going to be like, I don't even know what to do. So the other thing is, who is Christ? I mean, he was only on the earth 3.5 years. So even his apostles that spent all that time with him, they were like, what just happened? They spent all their time in the scriptures studying, like, what just happened? Now, of course, immediately Peter stood up and, witnessed Christ, and the ecclesia was born. But they were just like, what just happened? Those 3 years, they thought that thing would just keep going into the millennium. They didn't know that there were 2 comings. They didn't know everything, right? So then, that happened, and it was like, what just happened? So that's what the millennium is like. It's like, who is this King of Glory? What just happened? What? What is going on? What is this temple? So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to be able to get to the abomination that makes desolate, because the month we're in the 8th month, and this is where we finish building the temple. So after this series, once I complete the whole time period leading 9th of Av, and then it's going to be a series of videos on the millennial temple, to build the temple, because that is what's going on in heaven. That's how things are being administered. So to answer that question, and once we get into the white stone, is, who is this King of Glory? Who is Christ anyway? What? We're just all under the assumption, okay, we're Christians. We celebrate Christmas and Easter. We know who he is. We have a baby in a manger. Really? Even his own apostles that walked with him 3.5 years were like, they saw him and they didn't recognize him. So we're not going to recognize him. We're not going to be prepared for his coming. Just like everything else is going to happen different. So we want to study prophecy, and we want to know what's happened this year. I mean, I got a lot of videos on these. Are the least watched videos. You talk about least watched videos. My least watched videos are about Christ.
Mine too.
So when he entered the temple in his glory filled the temple on the first day of the first month this year. Okay, that's what happened. Then what happened is what we explained earlier in the call. He would have received his crowns, and he was anointed, and he had the red garment. He has the crimson garment dipped in blood, and the white horse. So all those things you can see with Solomon. If you go to 1 Kings chapter 1, Solomon, they blew the trumpet. He was on David's mule. He was on the white horse. Okay, and they anointed him. Okay, so they anointed him. So he was anointed. So that's why yesterday was so significant, because it's an earthly mimicking of what's happened spiritually. So that's why we extend all this effort to the revealing of Christ. What happened? The book of Revelation doesn't make it all clear with this vivid picture of all the prophecy exactly. But basically, through Isaiah, where's my Isaiah? Oh, it's here. So through the book of Isaiah, if we go to chapters like 60, 61, 62, 63, those chapters of the book of Isaiah talk about this time period, this window of time, okay, between the first month and the 5th month. So it's a repeat, Jason. So Isaiah 61, the Spirit of Yahweh is on me because he has what? Anointed me. Right? Now he read that. We know he read that in Luke chapter 4, right? But he stopped. He didn't keep reading it, right? Then it talks about the day of the Lord's vengeance. Okay, so he's anointed again. So he's anointed again at Spirit of the Lord found me to because he has anointed me. So then he's anointed again. It's a different step, guys, than he was earthly ministry. It's a different step than when he was seated on the right hand of the Father. It's a window of time when he enters the temple. No man can enter the temple because his glory fills the temple. He's anointed. He gets the garment. You see the garment in Isaiah 63. Okay. So in Isaiah 63, it says he has the garment, and then it says the last verse talks about the house becoming desolate, or the sanctuary destroyed. That's the 9th of Av. Okay, so that's what we're saying. The 9th of Av is that time period from the first day of the first month when he entered the temple to where he said, you know, the Spirit of Yahweh is on me because he's anointed me. He's anointed king. Okay, and also in Isaiah 62, he gets the crown. You know, the King James doesn't translate it well, but he gets the diadem in verse, I forget what that is, verse 3, somewhere around there, Isaiah 63. So there's the crown, there's the red garment, there's the anointing, okay? You see, all of that is happening in Isaiah. So all of that is what's happened in these months, between the first month and the 5th month.
It's amazing. It is amazing. And Leeland, I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. I feel you when you say that your least watched videos are about Christ. Same here. Same here. One of them, like I said in the last interview, one of the most important videos and time-consuming videos that I've produced myself was about the Lord of Spirits, whom we know is Christ. I only had like 200 something views on that one video. I'm not doing this for views. I'm not, but it tells me what people are interested in. Now, when you go to a video titled "The Mark of the Beast" and it's got 1,000 and it's been up for 4 days, and the Lord of Spirits video has been up for 4 weeks with 200, that tells you what people are interested in. That's what they want to know. And that's what they need to stop with Blackstone and focus on him. Leeland, I want to give you the opportunity right now, and thank you for your time today. And give you the opportunity right now to end this video the way you end every video of your own.
All right. All right. For the hour of his judgment of his come, worship him that made the heavens, the earth, seas, and the fountains of waters. Amen.
And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. Revelation 20 verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. Revelation 20 verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every man according to their works. Revelation 20 verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Revelation 20 verse 15. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation 21:8. But the fearful, and the unbelieving, and the abominable and murderers, and whoremongers and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, will have their part in the lake burning with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.